I Rack My Funny is the hit show at Lookingglass Theatre, only here through July 20th. The show was written by Lookingglass Ensemble member Atra Asdou, who also stars in the production. Thank you so much for your time today.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Rudy. It's
You
a
know,
pleasure to be here.
five generations of Assyrian women from the Ottoman Empire to modern day USA, narrated by a British guy. A lot to unpack, but tell us a little bit about how the show came to be.
Yeah, sure. So, Looking Glass produces primarily its own work. And so every year they send out a submission form. And in late 2021, I submitted the very seedling of an idea of like, I want a place to put the stories that my grandma and my parents told me. And because like growing up Assyrian, you are a walking, talking history lesson, like geopolitical history lesson. I also had the thought of how the geopolitical landscape over the last 100 years has influenced and coincided with the cyclical nature of the generational and familial stories as well.
I mean, especially too. I mean, thinking of this time now. There's a lot of conversations, especially about that area, of the world, but uniting people through humor. I mean, talk a little bit about maybe this moment in time, and maybe a perfect time for the show to be on stage.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the perfect time for it to be on stage. However, if you come and see the show, you kind of see it's history repeating itself. So I'm excited for the day that people go, oh wow, yeah, that was in our history, that was in the past. But yeah, it speaks a lot to influence and patriarchy and colonialism, not just within like the again the like geopolitical border landscapes, but the how that influences familial relationships too. So yeah, it is very relevant, and folks from all different backgrounds are also relating to it. So we're really proud that people can come and laugh through the horrors.
Yeah, I think anytime you talk about family issues, reclaiming your own life, reclaiming your own story, that's multicultural, multinationality, multi-generational. So many people can relate just to that core part of the story.
Yeah, yeah. It's been really wonderful connecting through just teaching, not teaching people, but people learning from the historical parts and connecting to the heart of the show too. So that's been really wonderful to see. Folks who are Assyrian see themselves, and folks who are not Assyrian or not even Middle Eastern or Swana, as we say, Southwest Asian, North African. They are also seeing themselves in it. And again, laughter is such a vulnerable thing that for us to do it in a room together while the world is telling us we shouldn't be together or seeing one another as human, that's really powerful and lovely.
Tell me what that's done for you, especially sharing these stories that were passed down, from your family, to share them on stage, but to see that bringing so many people together. I mean, like night after night after you're there. I mean, what does that do for you?
I honestly, Rudy, I haven't even like it's made me so proud to be a person in this world among fellow people. And and that sounds so cheesy, but also I haven't had a moment to really deeply process what this has meant, just because we do have so many shows, and
Yeah.
every audience, I keep repeating this, but the audience really is the last character in our show. There's some improv, and especially with my character and a few of the other characters, we have interactions with the audience, and so they are our final character, our final scene partner, and so we are really present in the room, and every night is a little bit different because everybody's a little bit different every night. And so it's been so connecting and so beautiful. I don't have words yet.
Well, yeah, we'll have to talk a little bit after, once the show,
Yeah, yeah.
is done, and kind of see, those wrap up feelings. But the start of the show and the seedling of the idea, at what point did you know, like, oh, we really have something, or other people, in the room during the workshops that you're like, we got to build on this because this is more than just an idea.
That's a great question. First, it started with direct support from Kareem Bandiali and Heidi Stillman, who were a part of the new. Kareem is still a New Works director, and it was just encouragement of just having somebody believe in you having an idea and going, should I keep going? And they're like, yes, you should absolutely keep going. Creating something in a vacuum, it was 3 years before I could hear it spoken out loud at all, just because of how, the development of it went. It was writing alone and then reading it with my mentors and getting feedback that way. And then when it got its first reading, we did it over Zoom. It was really just like the feedback was people were pointing things out that I had been too close to it to even see. So it was really special, and it continues to be special in that way, especially now that we have all the production elements of it.
Yeah, and I've seen David Schwimmer, who was obviously a co-founder of Lookingglass in the audience. A lot of people sharing their photos with him and him sharing the stories. I mean, what was it like? Some of those conversations and maybe some of the feedback that you got from him.
It was great. Every feedback I got from everyone has been so helpful. During our workshops, we had 3 workshops at Lookingglass, part of the ADI workshops, and our moderator Cream would say, what did you feel connected to? What challenged you? And then the last thing was like opened up to any other comments. And so the things that people connected to, obviously that's really great to hear as a writer. Very much interested as an editor, what challenged people and maybe where they didn't feel so connected or where it really took them out of something. So it was also helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially like the historical parts, we can watch, but tell us a little bit about some of the familial situations that we see our student that we get to see on stage during the show. Without
Yeah,
giving
so
too much away, but just maybe some of the situations. Yeah,
you gotta come see it before we close.
we want people to get those tickets and go see it. Yes, but just kind of set up the scenes.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'll say this: each character of my family, it's semi-autobiographical. It started out in its early development phases. It started out being a lot longer. I'll say that. And so there was a lot more packed in. And through the development workshops, I had help with my fantastic director, Dalia Asharina, all of the actors who have had hands on this play and embodied it and asked wonderful questions. And so we essentialized everything, even my characters, like monologues, historical monologues. So the family members became really more driven, centralized, had more purpose. And each character, no one character is based off of one person in real life. Everyone's kind of an amalgam of the people in my personal life, plus a little extra author artistic license sprinkled onto there to keep the movie, to keep the story going. But yeah, it is a lot of heart, and they also have a lot of comedy in there too. Yeah, there's a dad who references movies. That's based off of my dad, and there was a mom who did a lot at a very young age in terms of trying to support her family. That's based off of my mom too. So yeah, it's personal and also so specific that people feel it's universal.
And then final thing here, as far as connecting with the director, who obviously has some Broadway credit to her name, but talk a little bit about that story of how the two of you met and ultimately came to work on this project together.
Yes. So M. Yusuf Zabari, playwright. I was in Leolina at Goodman. Yusuf wrote it. And so I had connected with them. And one day we were leaving rehearsal and it was a snowy February. And he said, do you know Dalia Asharina? She's out in New York. I'm also based in New York now the last 3 years. And at the time I had just moved out there. And I said, no. And they said, you should connect with her. And so I slid into Dalia's DMs when I got back to New York. And then 6 months later, she likes to be like, I can't believe I didn't answer sooner. 6 months later, we got a coffee and that lasted like 4 and some hours. And we just like talked about our lives. She's also a Syrian American. And so we just connected. And then I invited her to come direct the first, our primary workshop of those 3 workshops. And history ever since.
And then, obviously, one more question, right out of that, you were both, in New York at the time. The decision to say we want to bring it to Chicago, we need this, this project has to evolve here in our city, versus maybe trying to do that in New York.
Well, so it's always been, because I've developed it with Lookingglass, it's always been, at the time we didn't know whether or not it would be in the season because the ensemble still had to vote. But because it's being developed through Lookingglass, they would have had first say on it. And also, there's something about Lookingglass, especially just within Chicago theater and theater across America. We develop primarily our own work, which is pretty unique. And also, the way that the stage can get configured is unique. You can configure it any kind of way, in the round, a thrust, a proscenium. So the audience has a different interaction every time. And the audience you're so close because it is an intimate space. It's not a giant sweeping space, and it's not a teeny tiny black box, but it's still so intimate and has the ability to have such huge spectacle. So it's unique in that way, and it really fit for this show. Our hope is to bring it to other communities, though, so that everybody can have an experience with it.
Wonderful. Well, we got to make sure this community it goes ahead and checks it out. It's here through July 20th at Lookingglass Theater. Go ahead and get those tickets. It is lookingglasstheater.org. Thank you so much for your time today, and much success with the rest of the show and the rest of the run.
Thank you so much, Rudy. Thank you all.